Welcome to part 4 of our Brain Hack series. I'm so glad that you're with me. So we're stacking on, we're kind of adding on things as we go. And this video, I'll be honest with you, when I put this sequence together, I was just like, damn, this is good. I can't wait to share this. So we're gonna be exploring the opposing joints principle. And just like before, I just want to remind you that this is all like quite complex and I don't want to overwhelm you with all of it in this video. So if you want to kind of understand the neurology, like the why behind all of this, then do check out the PDF that I've got on this. And also, please come and join me over on Move with Adell. I'm all the time sneaking these things in. You don't even notice, you don't have to think about it, but I'm giving you the benefit of these neurological hacks. So with the opposing joints principle, just a really brief introduction. The PDF kind of explains more about how it works if you're kind of like, that seems like nonsense. But it just is the fact that every joint in the body kind of has like, not a twin, it's more like the heads and tails side of the same coin. So the upper body will be matched, the joints in the upper body will be matched with the joints in the lower body on the opposite side of the body, okay? So hopefully this will make sense as you go through this flow with me. Like always though, it's more about just listening and noticing. Some of these things are not gonna work for you. That's totally normal. That's how this works. It works for some people, doesn't work for others. All right, some joints you may feel something, other joints you won't. We'll begin in a tabletop position though. So go ahead and make your way into a tabletop position. Take a few deep breaths here. Just settle in. Make sure that you feel safe and comfortable in your present environment. All right, and when you're ready, begin to just press your fingers into the mat. We're focusing right now on our wrists, and this is probably like a very familiar place for you. We often warm up our wrists in our tabletop position. But what we're gonna do is bring in the opposing joints principle to this. So begin just kind of rocking your shoulders forward over your wrists and just noticing how your wrists are feeling, how far into that extension that you can go, just as a test to understand the kind of baseline. Remember, we always want to be good little scientists and have our kind of control or whatever, all right? Now, the opposing joint of the wrists is the ankles. Your ankles are like your lower body wrists, right? And because we're working on wrist extension here, we're going to oppose through the opposing joint with ankle flexion. And I know you're like, most people are probably like, what is ankle flexion? It's pointing your toes. It's plantar flexion. So what you can do is just point your toes like really, really hard, like really, really working for it. But if you want to add on, you can maybe lift the knees up and think about pressing, really trying to like work all of the muscles that allow for this plantar flexion to do their jobs, okay? Maybe even walk the feet a little bit closer so you can kind of rock back, okay? And we want to hold that for like 10 seconds to 20 seconds maybe, just to make sure that that signal goes loud and clear to the brain, okay? And the brain's like, oh, the ankles are in flexion. Automatically, it's gonna be happier with wrist extension. So sometimes this can help with mobility, but another thing that it really helps a lot with is reduction of pain. So just retest that now and see if that has helped. And hopefully it has. Now, we'll stick with wrists and ankles. So you can come out of that, give everything a good shake, a little sort of, what's this called? Rolling out your wrists. But now we're gonna use wrist flexion to see if we can help our ankle extension. So rise up into a downward facing dog and take your time with it. You know, pedal the feet back and forth, sway the hips, do all your little wiggles and stuff that I know you love to do. But once you're comfortable and happy in your downward facing dog, I want you to pay attention. Let's start with just the left ankle. So maybe just use your right foot as like a kickstand and bring most of your weight and your awareness to that left ankle and just notice where you start to feel a restriction. Maybe you're really working on trying to get the heel down in your downward facing dog, okay? So what we can do is you can stay in your downward facing dog or you can come out of it, knees down or up, whatever. We're gonna pull with the right wrist. So the opposing joint of the left ankle is the right wrist. We're gonna go into the opposite movement, so that's wrist flexion. So pull, make a little fist and pull your fist towards you, flexing through the wrists like you're riding a motorcycle and you're like, meow, meow. Oh wait, no, it's the other way with a motorcycle. Never mind, forget the motorcycle. Then you can lower that down and again, just see if that has helped your ankle dorsiflexion, all right, or extension. And same then with the right. So again, just use your left foot as a kickstand back there. Test out the right ankle mobility, getting the heel down. Make sure you're not collapsing inwards with the arch of the foot. That's kind of a little cheat, especially if you're hypermobile. We like to do that. Try and keep the inner arches lifted and let the action come from the ankle and not the foot. All right, then bring the left wrist into it. This is one where I really feel it. My right ankle and left wrist are both, I don't know which one is the perpetrator, but I'm using this opposing joints on both of those joints. Okay, remember your knee can be down. You don't need to stay in downward facing dog for this. But then once you've held your wrist in flexion for 10 to 20 seconds, just retest that and see how that feels. All right, cool. So go ahead and look forward and walk your feet up to the front of the mat. Rise up halfway, find length through the spine, little Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold down, a little standing forward fold. Knees can be bent. Rise up to stand. Reach the arms up. Let's just give it all a little shake, a nice stretch to reset and come back to a standing position. Now, we're going to move up. So we've worked on our wrists and ankles. We're going to focus a little bit on the knees. Can you guess what the opposing joint of the knees is? It's the knees of your arms, yeah, your elbows. And so the opposing joint of your left knee would be your right elbow. Yeah, you got it. So let's say you do your chair pose, you do your squats at the gym, whatever it is, and your knees bother you, give you a little bit of pain. So what we can do is mobilize through the elbows. So just as we can, ideally we can use doing the opposing movement of the opposing joint. So flexion of the knees means extension of the elbows. We can also just kind of mobilize. So if you're ever unsure, like what is the opposite movement of this? I don't know. Just mobilize the opposing joint. So circling around, just getting the elbows moving. See if that helps. All right, but let's say maybe you're working on your squat, trying to get your heels to stay down as you lower down. We can bring that wrist flexion into it, but also opposing movement of the knees being bent would be straight elbows, and opposing movement of the hips going into flexion is shoulder extension. So we look like a little skier, going down the ski slope. And you can just notice if that helps at all. All right, from here, go ahead and move out of that to step your left foot back, lower the left knee down. We're back in our Anjaneyasana. This one is showing up in all of the videos in this series. So we can stack on. So we can start with what we did in the first video, just using the muscles to activate. Maybe you go to what we did in video 2, open up through the front of the ankle, the left ankle, to help open up through the front of the left thigh. Maybe you're also bringing your eyeballs to look over to the left like we did in number 3. But the way that we can bring our opposing joints in is if we're working on that hip extension, opposing joint, opposing movement would be shoulder flexion. So you might go into a cow face pose. And since we're working on the left hip here, really focus on the right shoulder, moving up. Reach that elbow high towards the ceiling. And see if that helps you with your Anjaneyasana here. We'll come out of that, okay? Remember, you can always pause the video if you want to just play around a little bit longer, but we'll move into a little half Hanumanasana. Hold your arms in this cow face position, but now really focus on what your left shoulder is doing. So the focus here now is the flexion of the right hip. So by extending through that left shoulder, we're using our opposing joints. Okay, if that feels like too much for you, you can just maybe do some little arm circles with your left shoulder in extension. That means back behind your body. All right, so rise up out of that, shake it out. Remember, it's all just noticing, and we are doing a lot of this stuff. You don't always have to do like opposing joints with every movement. We'll flow through, so lower your hands down, step the right foot back to your plank. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, lower your body down and bring the tops of the feet to the mat. Extend your right elbow out to the side of you with the elbow bent. Maybe glance over, make sure the elbow is in line with the shoulder, so you've got a 90-degree angle going on there. And slowly, with your right cheek on the mat, begin to roll over onto the right side of your body. Let the elbow kind of like shimmy away from you, so you're stretching out through the pec of the right arm. Now, we did this in video 1, where we just pressed the elbow down, but what we can do is bring the left hip into it. And because we are going into abduction through the shoulder, we can adduct the hip. So bend the left hip and try and bring the knee down to the floor and the ankle up to the ceiling. And if nothing else, this is a really, really good little workout for the hips. You're probably feeling it. In fact, I even added this into one of my classes just for the hip workout. Didn't even tell anybody that there was an opposing joints principle thing going on, but you can even lift up and down that hip. Oh yeah, you're feeling that, huh? Good, release that. And repeat on the other side. So remember, we want to kind of just test it. I know I'm flowing through kind of quickly here, so take some time to test how it feels just going into the position without bringing the opposing joint into it. And then notice what happens if you then bring that hip into it. So I like to bend here the right knee, try and get the knee down and the ankle up. As I lower my knee down to the floor, very strange kind of position, but I immediately notice that my left shoulder is able to, well, it stops hurting because I've got an injury there, but I'm also able to go deeper into that stretch. So I hope that it's working for you as well. When you're ready, come on out of that. Bring your hands under your elbows, tuck the toes under, take it back. Find your downward facing dog. If you found that there was one wrist or another, bringing it into flexion helped your down dog, then feel free to do that. Whenever you're ready, we'll bring the feet back up to the front of the mat. Inhale, find length. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees to rise up. Let's stretch it out. Just give the body a little reset. Shimmy and shake a little bit. And then let's try that squat again. So like a little skier on the slopes, see if you can bring all of the joints into these opposing movements to get the hips as low to the mat as you can without the heels coming up. And don't even look at me as well if you struggle. I have weird ankles and weird bones in my ankles that allow me a lot of range of motion, okay? We're all kind of structured differently. All right, when you're ready, come out of that, step the right foot to the back, lower the knee down, just like before. We can apply hack 1, hack 2, hack 3 to our Asana, if you want to. But let's bring the left arm up, the right arm down, maybe a little cow face, but make it active. Remember what we talked about in video 1. If you're just like chilling out here, your brain's not really going to be getting that afferent signal. So really reach that left arm, the left elbow up to the sky, really working into the flexion of the shoulder, reaching the arm up. And just see if that helps you find more depth, perhaps less pain, whatever it is that you need in this Asana through the right hip. Same as before, take it back to your half Hanuman asana, but this time we'll focus on a balance challenge here. We'll focus on what the right arm is doing. So really working into the extension through the right shoulder to see if that helps us with the flexion And see, I've released my left arm to help me balance. You can totally do the same. All right, release that. Move back to your runner's lunge, hands down, take it to your plank. Take an inhale. As you exhale, lower down onto your belly, tuck the toes under, press back through a tabletop position, and now crawl your hands forward into a puppy pose. So one final little thing. Can you slide your right hand back underneath your shoulders? Just use that to support you. Extend your right leg back, bend the right knee and lift it up. Now, as you lower your left armpit, especially think about the outside of the left armpit. So externally rotate through that left arm. So opening up, find that shoulder flexion, and at the same time, lift the right heel to the ceiling, but also internally rotate through the thigh. So imagine you're trying to get your right ankle over to the right side and the knee to the left a little bit more. So that's the opposing movement of what we're doing in our shoulder. And this helps me so much. I hope it's helping any of you, maybe if you have shoulder pain like I do. My left shoulder has always given me issues. But when I bring my right hip opposing joint stuff into it, it helps. We're gonna switch over. So extend the right arm forward, slide the left fingertips underneath you just to support you. Take the left foot back, bend the knee to lift it up, and move into the shoulder flexion. So remember, trying to externally rotate. I think about my armpit, try and get my armpit to face towards you. And then lift that left knee up, try and bring the knee in, the ankle out. Ankle to the left. So get some internal rotation, that's also gonna get that glute working. Breathe. You can also remember, just move the joint around. All right, rising up out of that, and slide everything back through a tabletop position just to sit back on your heels. And just like in all the other videos, if you want to, you can go through that again. You're right back where we started. This is how all of the shorter flows on Move with Adell work, to give you the choice to just do it once or go through it many times. But of course, we're not focusing on just one brain hack in them. There are more of a flow. So I'd love to see you over there on Move with Adell, where I incorporate all of this. Remember to get the PDF. Remember to check out Z Health if you want to learn more about this neurology. And I hope that I will see you somewhere, someday, whether it's at one of my trainings, one of my workshops, or over on Move with Adell. Take care, and thanks again for joining.